Now, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from Park City, Utah, home of the Sundance Film Festival, the nation's largest festival for independent cinema. Today, we're talking about nuclear power. Why? Well, the corporate media brings out debate when the establishment in Washington is divided, Democrats debating Republicans. That scope of debate they bring us. But what happens when the majority of Democrats and Republicans in Congress and the president as well agree? You're not going to get much coverage of the issue, and that's the story of nuclear power today. Just 2 years ago, President Obama gave a State of the Union address and was applauded on both sides of the aisle when he said this. We're broadcasting from Park City, Utah. And we're about to go to a clip of President Obama speaking 2 years ago at the State of the Union address when he addressed the issue of nuclear renaissance.
More efficiency, more incentives. And that means building a new generation of safe, clean nuclear power plants in this country. Because the nation that leads the clean energy economy will be the nation that leads the global economy, and America must be that nation.
That was President Obama in 2010 giving his State of the Union address. And that is a clip of a new movie that premiered at the Sundance Film Festival called The Atomic States of America. It's directed by Sheena Joyce and Don Argett, and Sheena Joyce is joining us now. The film is based on a book called Welcome to Shirley by a Shirley resident, Kelly McMasters. That's Shirley, Long Island, New York. And Kelly joins us today. Kelly, let's start out with, well, why you wrote your book. What is it about Shirley, Long Island? Most people have never heard of the place.
That's true. It's a service town to the Hamptons, and it's on the south shore of Long Island, a kind of little blue-collar, hardscrabble town that is actually blessed with some beautiful landscape. We're right along the ocean, and we have a gorgeous wildlife refuge, which I grew up right next to. I moved there when I was 4, and I had a pretty bucolic childhood. The community was small and tightly knit, and we had just a really wonderful experience. What we didn't realize, what most of us didn't realize, is just north of us, hidden by the Pine Barrens, was the Brookhaven National Laboratory. And it happened to be located on top of the sole source drinking water aquifer for 3 million people, including the people of Shirley. And there were 3 nuclear reactors there, and all 3 leaked.
I want to go to the beginning of the film, which is Kelly McMasters describing growing up in Shirley.
Part of me wishes that I could go back and unwrite this story. Of course, I could unwrite my story, but I can't unwrite the story of what happened in my hometown. My family moved to Shirley, Long Island in 1981. I had a pretty amazing childhood in a small community with a strong sense of neighborhood and solidarity. In about 4th grade, that was the first time that a neighbor got sick and wound up dying. Over the years after that, more and more people got sick, and suddenly that became more the norm.
That's an excerpt of The Atomic States of America. That's directed by Sheena Joyce. Sheena, well, we just heard what Kelly had to say about Shirley. Why you took this book and made a film about it?
Well, my co-director Don Argott and I had been given Kelly's book, and we fell in love with it. We fell in love with her voice, and we fell in love with Shirley, and we fell in love with Kelly. And it happened at a time when we were hearing about this nuclear renaissance. And it also happened at a time when we were hearing about these federal loan guarantees to restart our nation's nuclear fleet. And we kept hearing, these buzzwords about the nuclear renaissance and nuclear being, clean and safe and green. And we just started asking questions. What is nuclear? Is it safe? And do we need it?
So for 1 minute, I mean, we're not talking about a Republican president like President Bush. If he had tried to restart nuclear power after decades, a new nuclear power plant, one hasn't been built in more than 30 years, I don't think he could have. People would have risen up. But when President Obama announced that he would begin nuclear power plants, the rebuilding of them and the federal loan guarantees, well, he got bipartisan applause, and that's not something that happens very much in Washington today.
It's true.
So you look at, well, the atomic states of America.
We do, and we used Kelly's book and the town of Shirley as kind of a springboard into the issue to just talk to people, you know, really on both sides, but mainly to speak to the people in reactor communities. And it's certainly not an activist piece. We're definitely critical, but we just kind of wanted to seek an intelligent dialogue about whether or not man can responsibly harness the atom. And we started in Shirley, but then we traveled to reactor communities all over the country.
Let's go back in time, perhaps to the most significant reason why nuclear power plants have not been built in this country for more than 30 years, and that's 3 Mile Island. In this clip, we meet Eric Epstein, chair of the 3 Mile Island Alert, explaining how the people in his hometown never really questioned the nuclear power plant in town, or just outside of town, 3 Mile Island.
Didn't want to know you, but I had to love you. La da 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 dee dee dee. You'd be less than honest if you didn't say that this community was strongly supportive of nuclear power. This is not meant to be disrespectful. This is not Birkenstock, Berkeley. This is not liberal Boston. This is Bible Belt, Pennsylvania. In fact, let me just back up. We never really questioned nuclear power. That decision was made for us in the 50s and 60s. We're going to go down this path. God, I feel like I'm in a Rob Reiner movie. My dad would drive me down to the plant, and we'd see these clouds billowing out, and he would assure me that they were benign. You know, I believed my dad. My dad believed the industry. I just thought this was a wonderful, magical technology that had come to rescue us. I mean, energy independence, security independence. We thought it could warm homes at a price too cheap to meter. Everybody bet the house on atomic energy. All of a sudden, all these things came into question on March 28th, 1979.
Could I get your attention, please? There has been a state of emergency declared on 3 Mile Island.
That's Eric Epstein, chair of 3 Mile Island Alert, in the film The Atomic States of America. Sheena Joyce, the director of that film, sitting with us at Sundance Film Festival. Tell us more about him and about what happened.
Eric was a jackpot for us. He's an amazing character. He's a warm, funny man, and he grew up right outside of 3 Mile Island. And as you had mentioned before, you know, he never really questioned nuclear power. It was something that his community was proud of, and he grew up in a place that never questioned what they were being told by, you know, the local government, by, you know, the president, by, you know, the people at the utility company. And it wasn't until the accident occurred and things started to go wrong, and the people, you know, started asking tough questions and not getting the answers that they deserved, that he became really active in the issue. And he's been chair of 3 Mile Island Alert, and he's a community advocate, I would say, more than he's an activist. And that's something that you find in our film. It's just regular people who start asking questions. They're these unintentional activists. They don't, you know, seek out to make this their, you know, their life force, their cause, but they do so by necessity.
We'll come back to Sheena Joyce, co-director of Atomic States of America, and Kelly McMasters, author of Welcome to Shirley, a memoir from an atomic town, in a minute.